Oh, yes, how marvellous. Yes, just the right size. What do you think? I think I'll have to leave this hand without a glove though, so that I can turn the pages of one of our Fancy Friday books, which is just over here. Oh, I love this little book. It's the Sisters St. Clair and the Royal Mouse Ball. And it's written by Carly Gibson and illustrated by Tamsin Ainsley. Published by Allen Unwin. Oh, it is so cute. Look how little it is. And the illustrations are so beautiful. I'll hold up the pictures for you to have a look at after each page. Okay. This is the tale of the Sisters St. Clair, who lived with their parents, Odette and Pierre. Harriet, Violet, Beatrice, Minette, and little Cecil, we must not forget. And there they all are, a family of mice. Harriet loved all the second-hand stores. She looked for old treasures to fill up her drawers. In Thistledew's thrift shop, she found such a treat. A red velvet coat worn by Dame Marguerite. Oh, actually, I think that's the coat there that she's found. Violet was putting her money away to visit the city of Paris one day. She dressed in her finest and wandered the streets, shopping while eating Parisian treats. Whoa, that little shop. That's two of the sisters. Beatrice St. Clair had a weakness for shoes. At Louis Crouton's, she would stop and peruse. She picked out some sandals to match her best dress, then looked for a place she could buy them for less. So Beatrice likes shoes. Now, Minette, still agog in Miss Must-Have-It store, had saved all her cash for a few months or more. She looked in her purse and let out a squeak. At last, I can buy a fur crimper this week. She's been saving all her money. Now she can afford to buy a fur crimper, which probably just makes her fur look nice. Cecil, the little one, Cecil St. Clair was a young fashionista, wearing the clothes handed down from each sister. Buttons and brooches were added with passion, turning old clothes into new season's fashion. So here's the littlest mouse, and she gets all her sister's clothes that don't fit her sister anymore, which might be something if you're the youngest child in your family, maybe you get all your brothers and sisters' clothes. The girls scurried swiftly back home to Mamma, then danced arm in arm round the room with Papa. He bowed most politely, then reached in his coat and handed the sisters a fine royal note. Oh, here it is. Here's the letter. Let's see what it says. To all the St. Clairs, you are hereby invited to join me this Sunday. I'd be most delighted. Dress in your best for a royal mouse ball. I'll open the palace for mice, one and all. Sincerely, Her Royal Highness, Queen Julie Eschezer. They've got an invitation to go to the Queen's palace for a ball. How exciting! If I got an invitation to go to the Queen's palace, I think I'd wear this. Hattie looked down at her second-hand dress while Violet was twirling her beads in distress. I'm sorry, said Beatrice. I'm not being mean. But none of our outfits are right for the Queen. And she's saying, we can't go to the ball wearing this. That reminds me of a story I heard once. Pierre spoke with passion. The Queen will not care. Your style is unique. You're the Sisters St. Clair. Please, begged Cecil, can we go? Can we go? But Hattie refused. We'll politely say no. The sisters wrote back to the palace that day, and when the Queen read it, she sat in dismay. All mice had replied with the very same line. We thank you, but sadly, we have to decline. And there's the Queen sitting in her palace, and every single mouse that she has invited to the ball has said no. The Queen sat alone for a moment or two and asked herself quietly, what should I do? She picked up the note from the Sisters St. Clair, then ran for the door with her tail in the air. Her guard shouted out as they ran close behind, we'll fetch you the carriage. We really don't mind. The Queen's running out the door. Wonder where she's going. She knocked on a door with a right royal rap. Odette was aghast, and Pierre in a flap. The Queen smiled warmly with her arms open wide. My friends, the St. Clairs, may I please come inside? I think they were a bit surprised to see the Queen at their door. If the Queen came to my door, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I'm sure she'd love to visit Mrs. Costigan. I'd make her a cup of tea. My fancy cup. She'd love it. The Queen looked at the little house filled with old wares. No fine things in sight, but such treasures were theirs. She let out a sigh as she sipped on some tea. The only mouse coming this Sunday is me. Your life looks so glamorous, Hattie replied. It is, said the Queen, but it's lonely inside. Your Highness, said Beatrice, while mice are quite loyal, perhaps they're afraid to dress up for a royal. There they are sitting around having tea. And Beatrice has said, well, maybe the reason people have said no is because they have nothing fancy to wear. The sisters, they chittered and chatted aloud. Minette said, we'll help you to bring in the crowd. Send a new letter and ask every mouse to make their own outfits from things in their house. The Queen hugged the sisters. It's brilliant, she cried. We'll help you make one as well, they replied. We must go at once to our grandmamma's place. The Queen out in front set a blistering pace. So off they go. They're going to their Nana's house with the Queen. Knitting and sewing were grandmamma's passion. She kept squares of fabric to match any fashion. With patterns and scissors, a needle and cotton, you'll all have an outfit that's never forgotten. They looked through the dress-up box under the stairs and cut up old curtains and sheets into squares. They're making new outfits for each of them so that they can all go to the ball. This does sound like a story that I've read before. Minette and Cecil pinned the patterns in place while Beatrice was helping the Queen add some lace. Hattie and Violet were sewing with care till show-stopping outfits were ready to wear. All the different materials there. On Sunday, the guards threw the doors open wide. A jazz quartet played in the gardens outside. Ladies and gentlemice showed style and passion, proudly displaying their home-crafted fashion. Got all the little mice down there. Everyone's made their own outfits. Louis Creston had a red tartan suit. Dame Marguerite wore a hat made of fruit. Pierre wore culottes with a vest and a shirt. Odette turned a peacock print into a skirt. Harriet, Violet, Beatrice, Minette, and little Cecil, we must not forget, arrived at the Royal Mouse Ball with the Queen, who shone in a fabulous pantsuit of green. She looked at the crowd and exclaimed with delight, "You're here, every one of you! Oh, what a sight!" They danced round the room, every mouse taking part, until the Queen spoke to them straight from her heart. "I live in a palace and wear a fine crown. I glisten and sparkle in each evening gown. I sit at a table where food never ends, but all of it feels rather dull without friends. I welcome you all to my home with such pleasure. You shine so much brighter than all of its treasure." Oh, and that's the end of the story. I think the Queen was feeling a little bit lonely in her palace. So she was so grateful to the Sisters St. Clair for helping everyone come to the palace. And that is a gorgeous little book. And there's another book, at least another one that I know of, that is just called The Sisters St. Clair. So if you ever get a chance to borrow or buy this lovely little book, I highly recommend it. And then you can take your time looking at the beautiful illustrations. Au revoir.